It's not often that I get emotionally attached to a drill, but in this video I'm going to tell you why this is literally one of my favourite tools that I own. It's a Makita SDS drill. It's an HR2450 and I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about it. I'm going to be telling you about a newer model which you can get at a bargain basement price at the minute, which is nominally better than this one. I'm also going to be telling you all about the SDS drill bits that I take out on just about every job. And because this drill is now 15 years old, I think for its birthday, I'm going to give it a bit of a clean up. Welcome back. So this, if you're not familiar with one, is what's known as an SDS drill. And it's the sort of drill that you need if you're going to be drilling through really hard things like brick or concrete. This will be your friend. If you're ever in a property with concrete walls or solid brick walls and you're there forever with a combi drill trying to drill holes in the wall, you need one of these, an SDS drill. I'll not go into how they work in this video. I might cover that off at a different time. There's loads of videos on the internet that explain why SDS drills are awesome. But this particular one I have had now for 15 years. And to be honest, I would quite like to buy a battery operated SDS, like a cordless one, but I just can't bring myself to buy one because I'm too tight when I know that there's nothing wrong with the one that I've already got. And this has been through the wars. I have used this for everything from drilling holes, many holes in concrete walls, knocking walls down, using it for knocking bricks out of walls. It's a really versatile tool when you get the hang of using an SDS drill. Now this is the HR2450 model, which obviously isn't made anymore. But as I say, later on I will tell you about a slightly newer model that if I was going to buy a corded SDS, in fact if I was just going to buy my first SDS drill again, I would buy the one that I'm going to tell you about later on. The absolute basics of an SDS drill: you've got a depth stop handle generally on the side, which you kind of move around like that to get it in a comfortable position for where you're working. And you've got the actual depth stop gauge thing that you can poke out to wherever you need it. Generally speaking, you've got a switch to switch between rotation only, hammer and rotation, or hammer only. So in hammer only mode, you can literally use it a bit like a pneumatic drill. I very rarely use it in rotation only mode. I'm almost always using it in hammer and rotation mode. And the way these work, it's like drilling into a piece of concrete or whatever while physically hammering the end of the drill bit. That is how they work inside the gubbins in here. And because of that, they can drill through concrete way quicker than a normal combi drill. Let me show you. So this is what's known as an SDS Plus chuck that's on this drill. So it uses these kind of drill bits, which just kind of clip in like that, and then they lock in like that. And then to get them back out, you pull back on that, and then you just pull the drill bit out. And I always grease my bits. So the specs of this, you can drill up to 24mm hole in concrete or masonry, and up to 13mm in steel. Not that I would ever generally use an SDS drill in steel. Is that a normal thing? I generally only use this for masonry. This particular model is 230 volts, 3.6 amps, 780 watts. It has a no load speed of 1100 RPM and a hammer rate of 4,500 beats per minute or impacts per minute. Weight wise, it's 3.3 kilos and it has a 2.4 joule hammer impact. So this cost me about £120 back in 2004. And the modern day equivalent of the HR2450 is, I think, the HR2470. It looks pretty much the same. The specs and everything look pretty much identical to this, and that's still being sold, and it's £140 for the 2470. But that's not the drill I would buy. Now, I know a lot of people have asked, when you buy an SDS drill, what sort of drill bits do you need to buy to go with it? I will tell you. So these are all the SDS bits that I generally carry around all the time. These live in my drill box. And then I've also got these bigger ones that don't fit in the drill box that I just carry around on a kind of job by job basis. And then I've got a whole bunch of other bigger SDS bits as well. But if you're going to buy them, I would suggest this is probably more than enough to get you started, and then anything else you're probably going to buy on a per job basis depending on what you need. So just to take you through everything here, I'll start off with the drill bits. I've got a short 5.5mm bit, I've got a long 5.5mm bit, I've got a 6mm bit, because sometimes you do run into situations where you've drilled a 5.5mm hole and you just can't get a 6mm plug into the 5.5mm hole, so it's handy to have a 6mm kicking about. I've also got a 10, 12 and 14mm. This 12 one gets used a lot. It is 220mm long from the bit to kind of the collar of the, what's that bit called? Anyway, to that bit. You could drill up to a 220mm hole with this bit, and that's a good size for getting through internal solid walls. These probably wouldn't be long enough to get through. That one probably would be, but anyway. So of all of these, the 5.5 is the one I use all the time. I've got loads of 5.5mm bits. A lot of those actually live in my main drill box. There's nothing fancy about them. That one just kind of lives on my drill because I use it so often. So just to recap on those, 5.5, 5.5, 6, 10, 12, 14. I've then got this little carry box as well, which has a few other sizes in between. So I've obviously got an 8mm, which I use all the time. I've got a 10mm, a 7, a 6.5 as well. The 6.5's handy if you're ever fitting 7mm brown plugs. The 6.5 comes in handy for that. I've then got a chisel, just a flat chisel bit. Really handy for everything from chasing walls through to getting plaster off walls through to breaking down brick walls. You know, you can use this as a demolition bit to a degree. And I've got this one, which is a brick remover, like a mortar remover bit. Really, really handy for getting individual bricks out of walls. You basically just go around the mortar line and get all the mortar out of the joint, and then you can pretty much lift a brick out of the wall just by using one of those bits. Really handy one to have. Then for my bigger bits down here, I've got a long 8mm bit. This is really handy if you want to get through like an external wall, but you just want to kind of mark the entrance and exit points, because one of the disadvantages of an SDS drill is that if you drill from the inside to the outside and come out on the outer face of a brick, you can easily blow the face of the brick off. So never drill from the inside of a house to the outside using a bit like this. You will blow the face of the brick clean off. So what I'll generally do is carefully go through with a smaller bit like this. It still will cause a little bit of blowout, but nothing too major normally. And I'll go all the way through, and then I'll come back through from both sides with the bigger bit once I know where the entry and exit points are. In case you're wondering, this 8mm bit it's about 400mm long or thereabouts. And then for these other big bits that I've got here, I've got the big 16mm bit, really handy if you're running piping through walls and stuff like that. 16mm, ideal for 15mm pipe runs and stuff. Great big long bit there, that's about 520mm long, half a metre. And then we've got this big 22mm bit, again handy if you're running 22mm pipe through walls or conduit or anything else that's about the size of that drill bit. This one is about 360mm long, 370 or thereabouts. And of course I've got a little pot of grease which I just periodically fill that up, and before using the drill what I always do is just dip the end of it into here and just get a bit of grease onto the end of the bit before putting it into the chuck, and it just prolongs the life of the chuck. And my chuck is 15 years old and still going strong because I look after it. So there you go, awesome bit of kit. My trusty Makita HR2450. Got to be one of my best tool purchases of all time, this. But as promised, if I was to buy this now, I wouldn't go for this or the 2470. I would go personally at the minute for the HR2630. Now, normally the 2630 is about 180 quid or thereabouts, but for some reason, and obviously I don't know how long this is going to last, but for some reason Amazon are selling the 2630 at the minute for £109 a pop, and I think that's an absolute bargain for an SDS drill. It's a tool that'll probably last you a lifetime, and it's a really, really handy tool to have. Whether you just do kind of amateur DIY stuff or you're right through to trade and professional use. It's just been, I can't not recommend it. It's 15 years old and it's been through the wars and it's still going strong. The 2630 is almost exactly the same specs, very, very slightly better specs than this, but £109 a bargain. If you do have the money and you can justify the cost, I would go for a cordless, but you know, you're talking nearly £109 just for the battery for a cordless version. And personally, I just can't justify it until this thing packs in. I'll include a link in the description below to the Amazon version of the 2630. Obviously, I don't know how long it's going to be at that price for. I don't know why it's so cheap, whether or not it's getting sold off for a new model. I had no idea, but 109 quid, you can't go wrong at that price. Since it's his birthday, I'm going to give it a little clean up. Thanks for watching. I shall see you next time. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you're new to the channel.